Well, coming up next is another very interesting panel. So friends, decentralized AI is really the intersection between AI and blockchain technology. So we have the next panel coming up, which is the role of decentralized data storage and private compute in decentralized AI. That's quite a mouthful, but to unravel the mystery of all this, we have a very exciting panel. So yeah, could I invite Kishori Conver, co-founder Optimum? Hey, come up. Yeah. Hey, let's give him a round of applause. Show some love, guys. Come on. Let's cheer up this panel. Okay, Tom Trowbridge, who's the co-founder at Fluence. Yeah, there you are. Then we have Kai, who's the co-founder at Impossible Cloud. Jack Platts, Hypersphere Ventures. And the moderator will be Dr. Chen Feng. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, fabulous. Very nice. So, Dr. Feng, the stage is yours with your team.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, so hi everyone. Welcome to our panel number 3. I feel very honored to have a wonderful team of speakers. As you can see, right, all co-founders of prestigious projects. So the topic for this panel is kind of a little bit future looking, right? Like nowadays, everyone is talking about AI, right? And some people are talking about decentralized AI. So that's why we want to get some unique insights from our wonderful co-founders, right? To share with us their perspectives towards decentralized AI. So maybe first of all, right, I will invite each speaker to introduce himself. And since we are close to the end of the year, right, in particular, and please tell us what is the most important thing you have done, right, in this year. And maybe we can follow this order, right, please.
Yeah, that should work. Yeah. So yeah, my name is Kishori Conver. So I started my journey on this when I was doing my postdoc at MIT with Professor Nancy Lynch, the Lynch of FLP result, and then Professor Muriel Medard, and at that time they wanted to bring together distributed algorithms and information theory to create a decentralized shared memory. And we started working on that since, I think, 2015. And then here we are. At that time, it was not very appreciated because decentralization was not the main theme. And over time now, we are at a stage where decentralization is very important. And we started working on this project called Optimum. And here we are talking about it.
Hello, my name is Tom Trowbridge, co-founder at Fluence. Fluence is a decentralized compute platform. We've launched with CPU usage, and I think when you think of AI, you think of GPUs. And I think we'll get into a little bit more about the GPU versus CPU and where they come into play with regard to AI. I think one of the exciting thing we will launch this year, a year isn't over yet, so I think the exciting thing we'll launch is support for GPUs. So I'm looking forward in the very near term, but I will still talk about that as the course of the year. And before joining Fluence as a co-founder in 2019, I helped found Hedera Hashgraph, the layer 1 consensus algorithm HBAR.
Yeah, my name is Kai from Impossible Cloud. We built a decentralized AWS. Briefly, history. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded a large gaming company before. We had 1,400 employees, more than $1 billion revenue combined. I did a reverse merger to the NASDAQ IPO. And that was really exciting, also building large-scale networks. I probably paid for AWS during my time as a CEO like 200 million just for cloud services. Before that, thousands of servers like bare metal servers all around the world, low latency, hundreds of millions of users and so forth. And I was always amazed by the cloud space. But I thought you can build this in a better way. And that's the reason why I founded Impossible Cloud. We started at Impossible Cloud with object storage. That's the first foundational service. We want to have a lot more services down the line, so the goal will be to build a holistic cloud, not all on our own. We also look for partners in the compute space and so forth. Right now there's a node sale token launch happening very soon, Q1. So node sale happening this year, as you talked about this year. We have what I think already sets us apart. We have more than 1,000 enterprise customers. We talk about Web 2 regular enterprise customers. They all pay in fiat money. It was not easy to build products that move these guys onto Web3 hardware. So the hardware is all run by third-party hardware providers, regular miners that also run nodes for other decentral networks. And it's working in a very high-performant way, which is super important. Otherwise, it would not work with all these customers.
Hello, my name is Jack Platz. I run Hypersphere Ventures. I co-founded the firm in 2020. Prior to that, I was an early team member at Polkadot, an early L1. So I've spent my whole career in crypto. And we have been investing in projects like those on the panel and Autonomous and others, focused on decentralized compute, decentralized infrastructure, and DePIN. And yeah, we have about 300 million assets under management based on the east coast of the United States and in London, and excited to be here.
Yes, thanks, Jack. Okay, so very quick from my side. I'm Chen, head of research at Autonomous. At the same time, I'm a professor at UBC, right, doing research on blockchain. And that's why you will see for the coming questions, they kind of feel a little bit like a scientific, right? Because our purpose is to share like this, like insights about what is this decentralized AI. Okay. So, like a first question, right, is about this decentralized data storage, right? And we want to understand why it is critical for the future of decentralized AI, right? Why we are building this decentralized storage networks. So who wants to start? Yeah, the bus.
Maybe since the question is tackling storage, so maybe you can answer this one. I think this is super important. Of course, in AI, it really depends what you want to build. If it's like a LLM or like modeling and so forth, or if you have inference and so forth, inference will be the much larger use case down the line. Inference happens distributed or decentralized. Also, what's a really big challenge upcoming is inference with real-time data or with private data on top. What's very ridiculous at the moment, obviously, there's more and more data being generated at the edge. Already since a few years, much more data being generated at the edge and than in central. And what does not make sense is to really move all that data to central locations, then calculate there and move it back, and many use cases. And you have what's called data gravity or data locality. Moving data is very costly. Usually you want to have always this proximity between where the data is being generated and where it's being computed. And in order to make this happen, humankind will need much more decentral networks, able to store a lot of data and compute everywhere. And the amount of storage that you need is growing exponentially because AI is obviously producing much more data, and also AI is creating a lot more value for the data. So if you had an X-ray of a patient like 20 years ago, and that patient died, you just throw it away. Nowadays, you keep that data and train the model. So that means value of the data increases, and you need these decentral networks to make this happen on the AI space.
Yeah, very nice. So basically, right, we now see like the need of like a massive like data storage, right, as anticipated very well. Okay, so next, right, now until we want to understand the challenges, right, the decentralized data storage networks face in order to support the scale and the speed, right, just mentioned by Kai, right? Yeah, so who wants to go? Please.
Thank you. So this has several stages. As Kai mentioned, that there is a need for storage. So what does storing mean? Maybe it's some kind of memory. Who needs memory, right? So we have this idea of universal computing CPU, but we need something to store. So if you talk about storing, by the way, thanks for putting this timer, because sometimes I lose track of time when I talk about these things. So when you want to store something, you have to have some kind of specifications. The most general form that we are used to from our imperative programming, when you read a variable or write a variable, is that they should satisfy a specification. The most desirable specification is called atomicity or linearizability. Or if you have done multiprocessor programming, it should be like shared memory. And also, these atomic memories can be composed. Each cell can be independently implemented. That's all great, it sounds. But how do you put it together? So, and you have to also tolerate failures, Byzantine behaviors, all of these in decentralized system. Yet, you want to have, in such a fundamental system, low latency, high throughput, low storage cost, and this atomicity specification. So having all of these at the same time is hard. On the other hand, distributed computing is about distributed synchronization primitives. Consensus is the highest form that we know in the consensus hierarchy. On the other hand, atomic memory, in the weight-free sense, is a much lower. So if you can solve this problem without constantly using higher level primitives, you can get a lot of speed. And that's what we focus on, actually, how you achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to add, because as like academia, right, Optimum has like dozens or maybe more than dozens of research papers, right, and backing like this challenge. Why it is hard, right, and how to solve these problems. If you are interested more about, right, this like research, and feel free to approach Kishori, right, off stage. Okay, now let's move. Now we understand the need and the challenges of decentralized storage. We will move to another component, which is private compute, right? So the question is, how does private compute complement decentralized data storage in the context of decentralized AI, but in particular, and can we have some maybe examples, right, and to show that this combination can bring us significant advantages? Yeah. So,
Well,
follow the order. Yeah.
I can start on the compute side for a second. I guess what I'll say is that start looking at centralized compute and centralized AI. And I think the problem comes very clear when you look at the Google Gemini image debacle, which happened about 6 months ago, where the images you saw generated by Google were sort of farcical in their kind of political correctness gone wrong. And what you saw, well, that was evidence of an incredible amount of pressure applied to the model. And it was applied to generate certain outcomes. And those outcomes, I think, you would see in text, but an image was incredibly obvious. And so what you see as these AI models become more used and more the sense of truth the way Google is now, the constituencies that have a vested interest in particular outcomes only increases. That's governments, it's special interest groups, it's activists, it's shareholders, it's board members. Everyone wants certain results to happen and certain results not to happen. And what the clear example of that, at the nth degree, we just saw, which was Google Gemini images. So that's what happens with centralized AI. Just a question of when and how much. Decentralized AI is the alternative to that, and I think will become more trusted. To get to decentralized AI, you need to have decentralized compute. If you don't have decentralized compute, then you are centralized, right? So compute has to run in different geographies, in different hosts, with no central points of failure. And there's both the compute to train the model and compute to run the model. And so the different types of compute are required for each one of those. And so I think that is just kind of a high-level perspective on why you need decentralized compute if you ever want to have any type of free AI whatsoever, as opposed to an AI which is completely controlled and manipulated by governments or particular interest groups. Jack, to you.
I definitely agree with what Tom said. And from an investor standpoint, we think about the bottlenecks in AI and decentralized compute, but also AI more broadly. So there's the compute piece, there's the data piece, and then there's the models and the algorithms. So we've been trying to invest in areas of all three. And from the compute side, as Tom was saying, there's a question of, can it happen faster in a decentralized network, or can it happen cheaper? Because otherwise there isn't as much of a benefit. And then when you think about, okay, what is happening, it's either you have to train the models or you have to run the inference. So when you ask ChatGPT something, it responds. So that's the inference piece. And which part can be done at the edge, or edge computing of the network. So we have different investments in that area. And then on the data piece, at this point, the AIs have crawled all the available data, and a large and a growing percent is now being put behind walls. So companies like New York Times are making it much more difficult for AI crawlers to go out and crawl that data. But for more or less, a lot of it's been crawled to train the models. And at this point, what's very interesting is, okay, what are the use cases to unlock with private compute, or in a way where a company that's doing drug discovery or trying to become the next great hedge fund, that they feel comfortable sharing their data or with the model. And I think that there's a lot of reluctance for a next generation drug discovery platform to share their data with, say, OpenAI. And so there needs to be a ability for them to share it with potentially a third party. Maybe that's where crypto comes in, so you can kind of guarantee certain properties or certain things about how the computation was done on the data, to ensure that no third party has access to your trade secrets or your scientific breakthroughs.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jack. Yeah. Okay, so let me track the time. This comes our last question, which is a little bit open-ended. What are the most promising technology innovations you have seen, right, in the either like decentralized storage or private compute that could revolutionize decentralized AI in the next few years? As I said, right, a little bit open-ended question. Yeah, who wants to try first?
No, go ahead if you go, or I can mention. So one of the interesting model is what they call data availability. And it is an important aspect, but it is not directly linked to AI. So what you need is actually the data itself. And so that's a very innovative step when you have a Byzantine environment and you want some guarantee that the data is there when you need it, and you need to store it at a lower cost. So that's a very foundational step. And I think the next stages would be, how do you, as you see in one of the recent posts by Vitalik on the roadmap of PERS, that can you use actually eraser codes to store a vast amount of data and scale indefinitely? And I think that is one of the new things I have seen recently. And we are very much in line with that, because that's one of the things we strongly believe in using.
You know, I think that decentralized storage and compute are, foundational to decentralized AI. And I think these are both very difficult problems, very hard to solve, and very hard to solve at scale. And that's what, a couple of us here are working on, along with many others. So getting that right at scale is a massive achievement, and that's kind of in progress. I don't think it's fully completed yet. But I'd say that there's a lot of fascinating things in DePIN, and I will make a plug right now for our DePIN Day tomorrow, dpinday.xyz. We're hosting, hundreds of people and top experts in DePIN. And so if you want to learn more about that, come to DePIN Day tomorrow right here in Bangkok.
Yeah, maybe also that from my side in terms of innovation. I agree with what Tom said. Building systems at scale is ultimately the door opener to bring mass adoption, right? And I think Web3 is at the inflection point of still early adoption, but mass adoption is coming. Just like some numbers, I always like, I'm a numbers guy, I like numbers. So there are around like 3,000 deepen projects. Valuation of them, massive, 120 billion. But currently their combined ARR is like below 20 million, right? That's really, really low. I think it's important that products are being built on top of Web3 technology, and there is a lot of focus. And then if you build these systems at scale, I believe by the end of the decade, what is now valuation can become potentially ARR. That's what we build in. In terms of technological advancements, I think it's a gradual approach, step by step. You should just implement what's there, what's good. Most of the projects right now, I think in the space, are still struggling with very sophisticated tech approaches that are way, way, way too slow. Talking about like 2 orders, 3 orders of magnitudes too slow to serve mass market, right? And that's hindering a lot of the mass market adoption.
Yeah, I think the thing that is most exciting for people or capture the most imagination is probably the Truth Terminal project, the Twitter chatbot that has it's 2 different models, LLM speaking to it itself and then putting out tweets and then people creating kind of coins or projects around the tweets. I think that seems to have really struck a chord with the industry at large for what a potential, economic agent in the world could do. And if it has its own capital and its own ability to take actions, what those actions would be. And I think the more we have kind of experimentation at the edges for unlocking people's imagination and human ingenuity, we'll continue to see a lot of the smartest minds go not just from crypto to AI, but back and forth.
Yes, thanks a lot. I completely agree, right, with the insights from speakers here. And in fact, right, at Autonomous, we launched our mainnet first one last week, and we will be very busy next year integrating this private compute and decentralized storage at scale, right? The difficulty is at scale. And we feel that it's not only about one project, right? Maybe it's like a collaboration through multiple projects, right? How to like open up the innovations from blind young minds. That's why I feel very lucky and honored, maybe like to deepen the collaborations with the projects here and together, right? We might be able to develop a bright future for AI. Really appreciate.